Welcome to day 3 of Oddtober, and in today's video I will be covering the Richardson family murder case. Mark and Deborah Richardson lived with their 2 children, Jasmine and Tyler Jacob, in the city of Medicine Hat, Alberta, Canada. Their neighbors described them as being good people and quiet neighbors. They knew them but weren't particularly close to the Richardson family. But from what they did know of them, they seemed like a very happy and normal family. Neighbors described the Richardsons as the type of family that everyone wished they had. The parents were always doing something fun with their children, and it seemed like they were really close. To the outside world, it appeared that Mark and Deborah were really engaged in their children's lives, and the neighbors thought that the children really appreciated their parents. In 2006, when Jasmine was 12, she met Jeremy Steink. There is a lot of speculation about how Jasmine and Jeremy met, and a lot of people believe that the two met on a website called vampirefreaks.com. An acquaintance of Jeremy's actually has reported that Jasmine and Jeremy met at a concert they both attended in 2006. Jasmine and Jeremy both also had accounts on a Canadian social media platform called Nexopia. Jasmine's profile said that she was 15, which is 3 years older than she actually was. But whether her profile said 15 or her actual age of 12, Jeremy had no business being involved with her because he was 23 years old, making him 11 years older than Jasmine. Around the time that Jasmine met Jeremy, she started to dress and act differently than she had. Jasmine started to fully immerse herself into the punk gothic aesthetic. Jasmine started to wear heavy makeup and dress mostly in black, and overall started acting quite different than she had for most of her life. Jasmine had been pretty clean-cut looking up until this point, and she just pulled an entire 180 and changed up her whole entire look. Jasmine and Jeremy were pretty infatuated with each other. Both of their parents had previously struggled with addiction, and so a lot of people think that this might have been what bound them together. And I can't imagine what else a 23-year-old man and a 12-year-old little girl could possibly have in common beyond that. So it would make sense if this was kind of a catalyst in their relationship. Jeremy's life had been filled with challenges. His mom was a single parent, and it is reported that he was abused by a couple of her previous boyfriends. Jeremy also faced a lot of bullying in school, which caused him to feel like an outcast and like he didn't fit in. So when he met Jasmine, it probably felt pretty good to have someone who was instantly infatuated with him, and he probably enjoyed the attention she gave to him. When Mark and Deborah found out about Jasmine's involvement with Jeremy, they instantly expressed their disapproval of the relationship. And I use the term relationship very loosely here because at 23 years old, being involved with a 12-year-old does make him a predator since she's a minor. And in reality, what he was doing was grooming and preying on her. Although Mark and Deborah told Jasmine that she couldn't talk to Jeremy anymore, that did not last for long. And pretty soon, Jasmine and Jeremy began discussing the idea of murdering her family. And what's even worse is that it was completely Jasmine's idea to begin with. Jasmine said that she wanted to slaughter her entire family, including her little brother, and that she would go live with Jeremy afterwards, and nothing could come in between them ever again. Jeremy responded with a very vulgar message stating that he wanted to slit the Richardsons' throats and make them regret ever coming in between his and Jasmine's relationship. Jasmine went to school the next day and actually told some of her friends about her plan to kill her parents, and they must not have taken her too seriously because they didn't believe her, but they did also express that they didn't approve of her relationship with Jeremy either. Jasmine and Jeremy were obsessed with the movie Natural Born Killers, and this is actually where they got the idea to kill Jasmine's family. In the movie, the killers do spare the younger sibling, and it's reported that Jeremy has explicitly said he wanted to stray away from the movie in that aspect, and that he wanted to kill Jasmine's little brother. On the night of the murder, Jeremy went on a drug and alcohol bender. He drank a bunch of different alcohol, and he did a lot of coke and various drugs, maybe in an attempt to get himself ready for what was about to take place. Jeremy entered the Richardson house through the basement, and because he was intoxicated, he made it very obvious that he was in the house, and so Deborah went down to the basement to investigate. Because Deborah actually thought that it was Jasmine trying to sneak out of the house that night. So she thought that she was going to go down into the basement and find her 12-year-old daughter there and catch her in the act of sneaking out. However, when she got to the basement, Jeremy ambushed her and ended up stabbing her a dozen times. Jeremy had been dressed all in black with a mask over his face, so it's likely that Deborah didn't even know that it was Jeremy who was killing her. Mark heard what was happening in the basement, so he grabbed a screwdriver to protect himself, and he ended up charging at Jeremy, but Jeremy ended up overpowering Mark and brutally stabbed him more than 20 times. The amount of times that Jeremy stabbed Mark and Deborah shows just how angry and unhinged he was, and it is totally overkill to stab someone that many times. As Mark was dying, he asked Jeremy why all of this was happening, and Jeremy told them that it was because Jasmine had wanted them dead. Those were the final words that Mark heard as his life was ending. Upstairs in bed was Jasmine's younger brother. And Jasmine actually attempted to smother him at first, all while he begged her to stop. Jasmine ended up stabbing her brother, and it is reported that he pleaded for his life up until the very end, which is horrific and sad, and I don't even have words for how heartbreaking it is that this little boy begged his sister to spare him while she took his life. Jeremy went home to pack while Jasmine stayed home with her dead family in the house. The two later went to a restaurant where waitresses reported that they could be seen kissing and laughing and having just a great time. And there are also reports that they went to a party together that very same night. Jasmine's family was discovered the next day by a little boy who had actually come over to ask Jasmine's little brother if he could play. The little boy went home to his parents, and they went back to the house, and that is where the bodies were discovered by them. It wasn't until they saw a family photo with 4 family members that they realized there was one other person whose body was not accounted for. An Amber Alert went out for Jasmine because police initially thought that she was another victim and maybe she had been taken by the people who killed her family. They went to Jasmine's school, and this is where police learned that Jasmine had been going through a very dark phase lately. Upon searching Jasmine's locker, a series of comics had been discovered, and in these comics, very graphic scenes were depicted where Jasmine's family was murdered. This is when police started to suspect Jasmine as the murderer rather than another victim. Jeremy's friend, Casey Lancaster, had driven Jeremy and Jasmine a few miles away to the next town, and she had also cleaned out Jeremy's truck for him, disposing of items that at the time she didn't know were evidence in a murder investigation. Casey claims that she had no idea what had happened up until the point when she saw a newspaper discussing the Richardson family murders. Jeremy and Jasmine had actually told his friends about the murders the night before, but none of them took him seriously. This is likely because Jeremy had a history of saying pretty odd things. Since the age of 13, Jeremy had been telling everybody that he was a 300-year-old werewolf. And it wasn't a joke, it was something he firmly believed. So a lot of the people in his life were kind of used to just rolling their eyes at the weird things that he would say. So this is likely why no one took it seriously when Jasmine and Jeremy openly admitted to killing Jasmine's family. The following day, Jeremy and Jasmine were arrested by cops, and the two were brought in for questioning. Since Jasmine was a minor, the news reports were unable to disclose her name, and she was also unable to be charged as an adult in the murders. Because she was under the age of 14, Jasmine would only be facing 10 years for the triple homicide she took part in. During her trial in June of 2007, Jasmine was found guilty on 3 counts of first-degree murder. She received 18 months credit for time previously served and spent the next 4 years at a psychiatric treatment facility. As of May 2016, Jasmine's sentence is fully served, and she no longer has any legal debt to pay in relation to her family's murder. It is reported that she does feel remorse over what she did to them, but I don't think anyone can really confirm if that is true or not. Jeremy, who now goes by Jackson May, admitted to killing Jasmine's parents while he was in police custody. He was tried in November of 2008 and was found guilty on 3 counts of first-degree murder. Jeremy was sentenced to serve 3 consecutive life sentences. However, he will be eligible for parole after only serving 25 years. Casey, Jeremy's friend who drove them out of town and disposed of some evidence for him, was initially charged with accessory to murder, but that charge was dropped and she ended up pleading guilty to 1 charge of obstruction. Casey was sentenced to 1 year on house arrest, and I think that if she didn't honestly know what Jasmine and Jeremy had done, that is probably fair. I think that most of the blame does fall on Jeremy's shoulders, since he was the adult in the situation who was very clearly preying on a minor. But I do think that some of the blame can be put on Jasmine as well, as it was her idea and she did follow through with it. Even though she was the victim of a sexual predator, at the end of the day, there truly is no excuse for what she did, especially to her own family and especially to her younger brother. From claiming to be a 300-year-old werewolf to preying on a 12-year-old and brutally murdering her family, I think it is pretty obvious that Jeremy has some pretty severe mental issues. I know that while Jasmine was undergoing psychiatric treatment during her sentence, she had a lot of underlying mental health issues that did come to light, and I do hope that she has been able to get them under control. I think that this is a very sad case where a 12-year-old girl who was battling some mental illnesses of her own fell victim to a 23-year-old predator with an array of his own mental health issues. And when her parents tried to step in, rather than seeing herself as a victim, she just saw her parents as something that wanted to come in between her and her happiness and her true love. Jasmine's crimes have been wiped from her record, and she no longer has any tie to her old identity or the murders that she committed and helped commit. I hope that Jasmine has been able to accept the help that was given to her, mostly because she is now walking freely amongst the community, and it makes me feel a lot better to think that someone who committed those crimes might have been able to get a little bit of help and treatment before she was released into the world. But I really want to know, do you think that it is possible for someone who commits crimes like this to be rehabilitated in any way? Do you think that she should be walking freely anywhere? I mean, I don't know if she's in Canada or if she's moved, but she's somewhere with a new name, and no one in her life likely knows anything about the crimes that she committed. So do you think that it's possible for her to have changed, or do you think that she is still maybe a threat to those around her? I would really be interested to know. If you liked this video, please give it a like. I will be posting day 4 of Oddtober on Thursday. So if you want to subscribe and turn on post notifications, you will be notified when that video is uploaded. That is it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.